Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my new or updated patrons, Rand L, Liz L, Jason R, and Joseph H. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. All right, for today we have a lot to get through, so we will be going quickly. First up, we have a change from Tesla so far just in the Model Y in the rear seats when it comes to the emergency release for the doors in case the car has no power. Here's the old design. It was under this plastic that was hard to get to, and here's the new design with this easy pull tab to actually access the emergency release. In this video from Dax M, you can see Tesla also changed the door pocket lining to have this little tab that you can grab and pull out, much easier than the prior version that was just flat. And here's some video footage of the older version for comparison. Now this change started for the Model Y out of Fremont around August and for the Model Y out of Giga Shanghai around September. And it's probably safe to assume this change will make it to the Model 3 as well. Drive Tesla Canada also reporting that for all three versions of the Model Y in China right now, they are going to extend the window seats in the back. As you can see previously, the length of the seat was essentially the same all the way across. Now, window seat here being extended out to give more legroom due to feedback from customers, 30 millimeters or 1.1 inches. So far just for the Model Y and just in Shanghai, but again, this is where Tesla usually implements new tech first and then rolls it out globally after that. Along similar lines, in this video from Tesla Info, there's now a new mobile app feature giving you a remote door unlatch. So of course, in case your handle is frozen, this may help, but then the question becomes, well, if the seal is actually frozen, how well will this remote unlatch work? It's anybody's guess so far. Additionally, right now, this feature is only available for the driver door. Next up, TOSV asked Elon, can we get track mode for Model Y performance? Elon said this is harder than it sounds, but okay. Just keep in mind it may take Elon and Tesla 6, 12, 18 months to deliver on this promise of sorts. Here we have an update from Michael. He went into a Tesla gallery in Taiwan. They have the Model Y long range and performance, the only two variants on sale there right now. Built in Berlin, that was indeed confirmed with the VIN. The 11th digit was a B. But I just want to highlight, he said there's no ultrasonics, but new higher res cameras. Later in the comments, he then backed off of this comment about having new higher res cameras. He also did say great fit and finish, and in the comments, he said it was light years better than Fremont. Of course, just a small anecdote, but take it for what you will. Next up, there's been a fair amount of talk today about this report from Credit Suisse that talked about renewable energy and the costs in the future when paired with the Inflation Reduction Act and all of those incentives. Before we dive in, I just want to say I was not able to find this original report, but this Atlantic article seemingly did and said the IRA will have a profound effect across industries in the next decade and beyond and could ultimately shape the direction of the American economy. Credit Suisse gave three main arguments for this. First, they said that the estimate or the budget for the Inflation Reduction Act is way too low. Most reports have set it at around $375 billion, but in reality, Credit Suisse thinks that because a lot of these incentives are not capped, that number could be as high as $800 billion or over double the estimate. Second, Credit Suisse said by 2029, US solar and wind could be the cheapest in the world at less than $5 per megawatt hour or 0.005 per kilowatt hour. Credit Suisse also said for big corporations, the Inflation Reduction Act definitely changes the narrative from risk mitigation to opportunity capture. And separately from this report, Credit Suisse saying renewable energy could be too cheap to meter by 2025, saying the levelized cost of electricity from renewable sources, they're expecting it to fall to less than 1 cent per kilowatt hour by 2025 after factoring in all tax and production credits. So definitely still plenty of detail to be hammered out for the Inflation Reduction Act and how it will actually work, but more and more people waking up to the massive size of its potential impact. And yes, I am aware that Credit Suisse has a host of its own problems and may not be the most trustworthy company right now. Of course, that does not mean that the Credit Suisse analyst that worked on this research report should just be disregarded. It's just something to keep in mind. Next up, Troy Teslake made his Q4 prediction for Tesla deliveries public, coming in well below analyst expectations. Troy's at 400,000 for the quarter, Analyst consensus right now, 435,000. The main reason for Troy being a bit more bearish is the flattening out of the delivery waves from Shanghai to the rest of the world. And rounding to the nearest thousand, that's 142,000 from Fremont, 213,000 from Shanghai, 30,000 from Berlin, and 15,000 from Texas. Plugging in Tesla's data for Q3 brings their deliveries so far for 2022 to 908.5 thousand, meaning to hit the 50% year-over-year guidance, that's 1.4 million for the year, they would need 491,400 delivered in the fourth quarter. As far as I can tell, one of the main reasons Troy is more bearish than others, specifically with that 15,000 number out of Giga Texas, he said he's heard 4680 cell production has stopped, and he was actually referring to Cato Road in this tweet, as he then confirmed later. Tesla is working on new machinery to enable volume production. They had commissioned it to a third party a while ago, but apparently that company could not deliver. And for whatever it's worth, I checked with my sources and they said that maybe 4680 production at Cato Road stopped for a few hours just for normal engineering downtime. But as far as they know, no, 4680 production has not stopped at Cato Road. It is still running. Either way though, it will be fun to watch Q4 because there is a decent amount of uncertainty and, as you can see, a decent amount of variance as well. Next up, quickly, we had some images shared of a Model 3 without the ultrasonic sensors. Per the usual, plenty of people are skeptical Tesla will be able to pull this off. But in situations like this, I prefer to defer to Tesla's engineers and have faith in them that in time they will get it right, and I'm sure it won't be without hiccups along the way. Next up, some Tesla owners in parts of California were starting to see much lower supercharging prices. However, I just want to point out that PG&E as of October has indeed shifted to its winter season pricing. So on-peak rates are now fairly significantly lower priced than on-peak for the summer season. Here we had a release from the Department of Commerce that came out just over a week ago. Commerce is implementing new export controls on advanced computing and semiconductor manufacturing items to the PRC or into China. Simply put, these new export controls are going to make it much harder for China to have access to not only semiconductors themselves, but the manufacturing equipment required to make some of these more advanced chips, as this has escalated basically to a national security risk. One analyst said, with this latest action, the chasm between the US and China has now expanded to the point of no return. This will require companies to have licenses to export high-performance chips, usually designed for AI, to China. US companies will be heavily restricted in exporting machinery as well to Chinese companies that are making chips of a certain sophistication. Separately, Reuters has said this will bar research labs and commercial data centers having access to advanced AI chips. It'll prevent Chinese chip fabs, where they actually make the chips that are designed by different companies. It'll prevent them from purchasing critical manufacturing equipment and potentially force US nationals working at advanced Chinese chip companies to resign. We've talked a lot in the past about how Taiwan and South Korea own around 80% of the foundry market, or the fabs where these chips are made. But don't forget, the US still has strong companies in the areas of design tools, and it's unlikely that these advanced chips made by TSMC won't have used American tools somewhere along the way. Basically, we have the US Department of Commerce trying to cut off China from a huge part of the semiconductor market. Now, is China going to retaliate? And if so, how? Is definitely a question to watch in the weeks to come. This market is way too important to the future for this to be the last that we hear on this news. Next up, we have Reuters reporting on Tesla's hiring activity. They started tracking this data basically over the summer. The previous high in terms of job postings for Tesla has been 7,400. That was back in May. Fast forward to today, that number currently sits around 6,900 jobs. Again, this is total jobs posted, not just what was listed for the week, although this article would lead you to believe that. I'm sure many will be pleased to hear that vehicle service has jumped by over 40% since late June to over 1,600 job ads this week. If you think about it, this really could be a good leading indicator for us to try to figure out where Tesla is looking to expand right now. The TLDR from this article is that answer really is everywhere, but specifically, job postings have almost doubled to about 80 this week after hitting a trough earlier this summer in July. We know that the Fed basically wants unemployment to go up. I've said before, it seems likely there will be more economic pain ahead in 2023, so this is definitely subject to change, but good to see for now. Next up, Tesla is building a brand new employee gym on the top of the Fremont factory. Supposedly, it'll be just covered with a canopy to protect the equipment. Should cost around $200,000. I'm sure many people won't care too much about this, but from an employee standpoint, to have a nice gym that is free with working at the company, where you can work out before work, at lunch, right after, whatever, to eliminate more driving is very nice. Here we have an update from Elon on Starlink. He said, yeah, the RV version is lower priority than the standard version, so when it comes to speeds, you should expect them to be lower generally. But as we add more satellites and upgrade satellite tech, speeds in high user density locations should see significant increases. And in case you're feeling generous, Elon said they will add a donate option to Starlink. And as I was editing, I happened to stumble across this. The Pentagon is considering paying for Starlink for Ukraine from a fund that's been used to supply weapons and equipment over the long term. And a Pentagon spokesperson said, we don't have anything to announce today, and I won't speculate on future security assistance packages. Next up, we finally got to see the new EQE electric SUV from Mercedes. This should compete with the Model Y. It'll have around 367 miles of range and should start around $68,000 US when sales start later this year. This SUV will have Mercedes' famous Hyperscreen, which is 55.5 inches. And Mercedes did say to help fund this ambitious rollout, they plan to weed out lower margin vehicles in favor of more profitable G-Wagon SUVs and performance models. The EQE will be manufactured at Mercedes' United States plant in Alabama. All four of these EQE packages should have a 90.6 kilowatt hour battery pack. This compared to the 120 kilowatt hour battery pack found in the heavier EQS. I've heard the charging rate only goes up to 170 kilowatts, but again, as always, it all comes down to the charging curve. Too early to tell. Next up, just real quick, this video was over a week ago from E4 Electric, but I just want to highlight in case you missed it, and shout out to the subscriber who shared this with me. The point is, Alex making this video about VW's problems with its software just goes to show how bad the problems really are. Speaking of those software problems at VW's Cariad that has filtered down to more models than just the VW brand, the Macan has officially been delayed to 2024 because of software. Here we have an update from Drive Tesla Canada saying that Rivian is going to be offering paint protection film direct from the factory. Rivian won't be doing this themselves though. They have partnered with XPEL to actually do these installations near the factory to ensure installation quality control. Right now, there's only one option for front gloss PPF costing around $1,500. They will have a second option coming in the future, more expensive, $4,500 for a full satin PPF package. This is pretty cool to see, as we've seen plenty of Tesla owners opt for third-party packages like this after taking delivery. Maybe Rivian gets a cut of this partnering with XPEL in this fashion. I would assume that they do. And of course, this would be nice for consumers to already have this done when they take delivery, not having to baby it, for that time until they can get it into a PPF shop. Additionally, for Rivian, they sent out this email saying it's updating its camping kitchen and the gear tunnel. Rivian said, we're temporarily pausing production of the camp kitchen as we work to update its design. Our goal has always been to create the ultimate outdoor cooking experience. As our team has continued testing the camp kitchen in different environments, we found opportunities to refine the design and make our version of cooking in the wild even better. The redesign also includes updating the gear tunnel shuttle, which is included in the camp kitchen package. We also learned about the official WLTP ranges for the Model S and X in Europe. Previously, they were just estimates. The numbers on the screen highlighted in green are the WLTP figures, so converting to EPA, dividing by 1.12, this is around 350 miles, and this is around 333. And when it comes to the Model X, the actual certification was better than the estimates, so the final numbers for the Model X coming in at these WLTP figures, and once converted, it's 319 and 300 miles respectively. Next up, a lot of people today were talking about this new Jeep Avenger EV that was revealed at the Paris Motor Show, but sadly for US consumers, it's not coming to the States, only destined for Europe so far. It will have a 54 kilowatt hour battery pack, should travel 249 miles, once again on the WLTP cycle. Doing the math, that's 222 miles of EPA range. And the max charging rate is set to be 100 kilowatts. This vehicle is set to be produced in Poland, and if you're in Europe, pre-orders will begin today. Last up for today, we had this pretty interesting tweet from Elon saying Deus X Machina. So the actual saying is usually EX in the middle, not just a capital X. Again, is Elon referring to something with Twitter and his own X platform? So we're all just left guessing, but this saying typically means there's a problem in a plot that seems unsolvable, but due to some unexpected circumstances, a solution to that problem essentially arises. What do you guys think? But for me, I won't at all be surprised if we get some Twitter news here in the next few days. That'll do it for today. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.